So, wanted to make a quick video to show you some of the basics of the ring and ring friction saver. So this is old school technology by this point in tree climbing. It's basically a heavy duty strap with a steel ring on either side, and on the one side it's a large ring and the other side it's a small ring. So we use this for friction management in different applications, but what I wanted to look at is just basic old school doubled rope technique with the ring and ring friction saver and how you would use that to manage friction for your climb. So we're going to look at a few different things, how to set them both in the tree and from the ground, and then how to retrieve them. So let's take a look at the ring and ring friction saver. Alright, so I'm up in the top of this big ugly silver maple here, and I'm going to tie in. So I'm going to use my friction saver. So what I want to do is the thing that you need to think about with a friction saver is the retrieval when you're all done. So you want to make sure that you'll be able to get it back down to you easily. So I've trimmed a couple smaller branches here and a dead one around the back as well, just to make sure that it'll come down nice and easy for me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie in on this limb here. I'm going to tie it around the main stem over this limb. So put my friction saver on there like that. So that's going to be my tie-in there. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to rig out 2 good-sized leaders over there that are over the house. And then I'm going to swing around the back side here, and I can use this point to access most of this tree. And then James can access the back side there to deadwood it. So for my line here, just pop my beaner off. So again, it's color coded, so green, and this was red or orange. So green first, that's the small ring, and then the big ring, and then hook yourself back up. And then what you want to do is you want to test it and make sure that it's good. So you want to just release the tension on your lanyard, but keep it on, and put all of your weight into this tie-in point here and your climbing line. Make sure that your hitch is grabbing good. Just test it. Everything looks good. So now I can take my lanyard off, and I'm good to go on my tie-in point. So that is how you set up a tie-in point with a friction saver. Alright, so let's take a look at setting the ring and ring friction saver from the ground. So I've taken my throw ball and I've tossed it up through a suitable crotch, and now I want to be able to set my ring and ring friction saver. So how am I going to do that from the ground? So I'm going to start by taking the ball off. Then I'm going to put the line itself through the small ring, and then I'm going to put the ball back on. Okay, so that's the setup on the one side, is the line and the ball through the small ring. Now on the other side, I need to, this is time consuming by the way, I need to take the entire throw line, run it through the large ring. So this is my setup. Now what I do is I'm just going to pull the throw line, and you're going to see the friction saver go up. Now just as it gets to the crotch, what I want to do is give it a good pop, and you're going to see it flip over, and then the ball is going to flip backwards and come back down to me. So we'll see that. Okay, so there you have my friction saver set remotely from the ground, and that's ready to put a rope up through it. So we'll look at that next. Okay, so we've got our friction saver set up in the tree, and now we're ready to pull our climbing line up and through it and back down to us. So with a spliced rope especially, this can actually be pretty difficult. This is why I hardly ever will set up my my rope in a friction saver from the ground. Usually I'll just climb up there and set it manually. But let's see if we can get this to pop through. So I'm going to start with a pile hitch like normal. There's my pile hitch. Now this is a case where I want to try and make a long streamlined tail, especially on the very end where the splice is. So what I'm going to use here is a midline clove. Oops. Come on. There's my midline clove. I'm going to put that right on the splice itself. And my goal here is actually to pull that splice as tight as I can. Pull both sides of it together. And just make it as tight of a thing as I can, like that. Okay, so there's my setup, and I'm going to try and pull this up and through that small ring and into the friction saver. So let's see if this is going to work for us. So again, I'm going to try it with a good pop. There you go. Okay, so now it comes back down to me. So here's my setup. I've got my friction saver in the tree, and I've got my climbing rope through it. So that is how we can set it up. So that's with the spliced eye. So now let's look at a non-spliced rope, which is usually a little bit easier to set up. This is usually a little bit easier, I find. Again, you start with a pile hitch, like that, and then we'll just do some half hitches, and you can either do a half hitch or a clove hitch on the end. Tighten all that up. You're just trying to get that last hitch as close to the end of the rope as possible without it slipping off, obviously. So now let's see what that looks like to slide through there. Again, once it gets up there, you're going to give it a good pop, and she goes right through and back down to you. So that is setting it up remotely from the ground with a non-spliced eye rope. Okay, so we're done our climb, and now we want to retrieve our friction saver. So let's look at two different ways of doing that. So in the first example, what we're going to do is just send it crashing to the ground. So what you need is something that's going to fit through the large ring and then get caught on the small ring. So I just use one of these quick links. These work fine. There's lots of different options. The way I like to set up my quick link is I just have a short piece of throw line with eyes in either end. So what I'll do is I'll just tie a pile hitch, and that way the quick link sits beyond the end of the rope. So let's see what that would look like. I'm just going to pull it up. It's going to pass through the large ring and get caught on the small ring, and then you're going to pull and rip it back down to the ground. So that is retrieving your friction saver without control. And next we will look at how can you retrieve it under control using your throw line. Okay, so we've already looked at how we can retrieve it and just let it free fall all the way to the ground. Now we're going to look at how you can retrieve it under control using your throw line. So again, on the terminal end here, I'm going to start again with just a pile hitch. Tighten that up, and then I'm going to use my quick link again. So I want to come down below the end of my rope. And what I'm going to do is just do a girth hitch. So I'm just going to put it through and then around. So there's my girth hitch. So that's my setup there. I've got my throw line attached to my rope, and then down below the end of my rope I have my quick link girth hitched on. So now what's going to happen is it's going to go up through the large ring, and then the quick link is going to do the same thing through the large ring, and it's going to get caught on the small ring. But this time, as I pull it around, you're going to see the throw line is actually going to pass up and over the branch, and now I'm lowering my friction saver under control. You can see it's wrapped with the throw line on the large ring. So you can bring it down under control using this method. Now keep in mind, this uses a lot of throw line, because you can see I have 2 legs of throw line on this side of my tie-in, and I have 2 legs of throw line on this side, which means I'm using 4 times the height of my throw line, which means if I was tied in at 40 feet with my friction saver and I wanted to retrieve it using this method, I would use 160 feet worth of throw line just to get this back down to me. So once I get it down, I'm just going to unhook the pile hitch from the end of my rope, and then I'm going to take my quick link off, and now what I'm going to do is just pull my throw line out of there and get this all the way back down to the ground. So that is retrieving my ring-in-ring friction saver under control using the throw line. So that is some of the basic aspects of using the ring-in-ring friction saver. So until next time, climb high, work smart, and read more. TreeMuggs out.